Order, please. The special meeting of the Joshua Basin Water District Board of Directors for December 17, 2025 is now in session. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Determination of a quorum. General Manager Johnson, a roll call, please.
President Bowman.
Present.
Vice President Doolittle.
Here.
Director Vick.
Here.
Director Jarlsberg. Here. Director Short.
Here. Thank you very much. All the directors are present in the boardroom. There is no request for remote participation. We have a quorum. Well, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Thank you. A second?
I'll second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. Public comment. Number 4. This designated time is for members of the public to provide comments on any district-related matter, whether appearing on the agenda or not. Under provisions of the Brown Act, the board is prohibited from taking action on items not listed on the agenda. At the discretion of the board president, comments on a particular agendized item may be deferred until that item is heard. Do we have any public comment? Hearing none. General Manager Johnson, is there written, electronic, or voice mail public comment?
Excuse me, none to my knowledge.
Thank you very much. Public comment time is now closed. Consent calendar. Consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial, to be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. If a board member would like an item handled separately, it will be removed from the consent calendar agenda for separate action. We have one item. It's the December minutes, the December 8 minute board meeting. Does anybody want to remove this item from the consent calendar for discussion? That's unusual. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar, please?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Item 6 is vacant. Discussion/action calendar, October 2025 check register. Presented by Director of Finance Ann Roman, if you please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll start off by apologizing for being an agenda hog again. First topic, though, should be one of our easier ones. The check register for October 2025. We have a few items that were noted in the report, in the staff report, but I'll go through starting on page 10 of the agenda packet. The top, an Aqua JPIA invoice for auto and general liability. That's $92,000. I don't remember exactly what it was last year, but it went down slightly. So there's also in the middle of the page an Aqua. This is Association of California Water Agencies invoice for the annual dues. That was $28,320. We do have our sampling on this page near the bottom. Several invoices there related to that. Babcock Laboratories. Any questions on page 10? Page 11. Okay, so we have core and main on this page with some inventory that was purchased. 900 feet of copper pipe, 40 1-inch angle meter stops and repair clamps. You'll also notice above that slightly, there's a CJ Brown and Company invoice. That's for a progress invoice for our audit. We're nearing the end of that billing. There's a few more invoices after this one. And Let's see, anything else on this page of interest? I did not notice anything else that stood out to me. Questions?
Well, this stood out to me.
Yeah.
County of San Bernardino AEC controller, I guess, unpaid. What is that?
Yeah, the unpaid special assessments report. So each year for the audit, we have to obtain a report from the county assessor. And this is the unpaid portion of the property taxes, the standby assessments, and the CMM assessments. So that report just informs us what those balances were at the end of the year so we can true up our books.
You said assessor, but this is that the same as controller?
It's the county county
Oh,
auditor, treasurer, controller. It's a combination of positions, yeah. Anything else on that page? Okay, moving on to page 12. Yeah, so let's see. We have Home Depot on this page. Purchased some tape measures, a microwave, concrete, trash bags, a spare key. And we have maybe an interesting one, Mojave Desert Air Quality Management District near the bottom with some permit renewals there. Other than that, yeah, I didn't see anything that stood out. Questions?
What does Granite Construction?
Those are the purchases of cold mix. Yeah, so for filling filling where we dig in pavement, it's cold mix. Asphalt, yeah, asphalt bags essentially that we use to fill in those areas that we dug.
Does that go in hot or just regular?
No, it's cold.
Okay.
Yeah, that's in lieu of doing a full-on paving job. Other questions or comments? Page 13. Near the top, we have Napa Auto Parts, purchased some batteries for SCADA sites there. Oh, sorry, that was on the other page. This one is batteries. This is a battery for a vehicle and a wiper blade. Also, we have Pro Security on this page. That one was an alarm maintenance, can't speak. RDO equipment, so that's near the bottom or about a third from the bottom. We did a vacuum repair for E82, which is the McLaughlin vacuum, and also repairs to the John Deere 410 backhoe. And we have Sillers Institute on this page at the very bottom, $5,000 employee training. That is Class A driver training, including behind the wheel training, vehicle inspection, skills training, and public road, and 2 DMV driving exams. Other items of interest on chart 2? Page 14, we have near the top Southern California Edison with our power to buildings and generators, and also our power for pumping. That's our 39,000 in October. We have the credit cards on this page also, just below the middle, US Bank Corporate. The first one is mine, and that one included the government tax seminar for 2025. We just did that last week. That was for Autumn, Adriana, and myself. And it's a 2-day webinar, so very informative. GFOA 2025 government gap update webinars as well. We have on this page also David's credit card next with monthly Adobe subscriptions, miscellaneous parts for the chlorine tank, printing fees, custom JBWD canopy replacement for events, and new tires for vehicle 48. Sarah's credit card just below that included CSDA conference meals and lodging for General Manager Johnson and Director Jarlsberg, Aqua Fall Conference for Director Short, Aqua Regions 8, 9, and 10 event and lodging for Director Jarlsberg, and a background check for employee recruitment. And we also have on this page USA Blue Book, couple of invoices there, including steel service line puller cable, white marking paint, chlorine test kits, and yellow spray paint for hydrant maintenance. Questions or comments on page 14?
David,
Oh,
Jane, ladies first.
sorry. Above, about a third down on page 14, the Van Dyke Corporation. Is that Dick's, company? No, just kidding. I just wondered what retention, recharge pipeline repair, what's the retention mean?
Yeah, so we paid out on that repair for the recharge pipeline break for Van Dyke Corporation to do that repair. But when we pay something like that, we retain a certain amount of that payment. And in this case, I don't remember if it was 5 or 10%. Usually 5 or 10% is standard. And then once you have all of the documentation in place, then you release that final percentage. And so that's just the retention.
Oh, good. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
That's what I was about to ask about.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's a little levy for them to complete everything. Now, my question is, has the contractor who did this, how have they paid up?
They have not paid up yet. We're in process of working on that. Some pushback,
Hmm,
but we're fighting hard, so
hmm.
I expect payment will be made soon.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Page 15, let's see. Is there? Yeah, not much there, but we do have I see there's a live scan reimbursement for one of our new employees, so that was nice. We're bringing folks in. Total of this check register, 367,000. So a terrible one. Moving on to page 17, which is the payroll processing register. We have $991.40 in payroll processing costs, $75 in FSA processing costs, and $600.78 in employee FSA funded medical reimbursements. Questions or comments on page 17?
If not, you'll probably see much more down in the December check register because FSAs have to be spent by December 31st. So employees tend to spend more during the time, so don't be surprised.
Page 19, we have the utility refund check register, and that one includes 2 temporary meter refunds. The 2 large ones, the 2,000 and 3,000 were temporary meters. The others are routine refunds, including sometimes overpayments on accounts and, of course, the deposit that the customers put on account with us as well. Any questions on that page?
Does people get refunds after a certain amount of time they've been customers, or is that at the end of their being a customer?
Yeah, this is when the account closes. Customers do have their deposit applied after a certain period of time. I think it's 2 years. And then there's other criteria in there that they have to meet in order to get their deposit applied with an ongoing account. But these are accounts that have closed.
Part of my question is, I think the Three Sisters property partners are the, always forget the name of the, out in Landers,
Integratron?
yeah, Integratron.
Oh,
I
interesting.
mean, I don't know, I don't know for sure, but
Yeah.
I think it's sisters, and I didn't,
They are
and I don't think they closed. That's what kind of motivating my questions.
Well, they could be tenant accounts that are in the landlord's name. There's a lot of turnover.
They do have rentals here.
Yeah. So
Okay.
moving on to page 20, yeah, 20 and 21 are the director's stipends, and with those, we have, of course, some board meetings, and then we have, also a couple of other trainings and other types of meetings totaling $2,600. Questions on it's 20 and 21?
I've got one note. This, I forget what it was called, the refund, it was utility refund register. Yeah, you mentioned that if somebody has an ongoing account and we have a deposit, the deposit can be refunded. Do we initiate that ourselves, or does the customer?
We initiate that.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, once they meet that criteria. And I believe it's no more than 2 late payments and do you know if it's no cutoffs or I don't remember exactly, but once they meet that criteria, it's actually one of the things that our system does flag, and we're able to apply that deposit to their account.
I bet that's a phone call they're glad to get.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of these are a decent amount of money, and I noticed there is one for $1 though. That'd be a nuisance call, probably.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to approve the October 2025 check register?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
Thank you. General Manager Johnson, a roll call.
President Berlin,
Aye.
Vice President Little,
Aye.
Director Fick,
Yes.
Director Drawsberg,
Yes.
Director Short.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Motion carried. Item B, meter connection fee cost estimate updates. Director of Finance Ann Roman, please.
Thank you. The fund again. Okay, so these are actually pretty straightforward. I say myself, but if you recall, let me pull up the PowerPoint so we can all be on the same page here. Last year we changed the methodology for the meter connections. We went from a fee-based cost to it was always at cost. However, one was based on fee, and we changed that to a deposit-based system where we are providing a deposit amount to the customer, and then we're reconciling that cost after the project has been done, and they're receiving either a refund or they're receiving a bill. In most cases, they're receiving a refund. What we did notice is that our estimates for those deposits were not quite as accurate as we would have liked them to be. We have to work with operations to gather the information that goes into those cost estimates. So for example, how many hours of labor does it take? How many hours of vehicle time does it take? What are the supplies, the inventory that is used? And so with all of those inputs, we developed those estimates last year. We changed the methodology in the rules and regs. And all we're doing this year is updating those amounts to any new costs that have come about for inventory, for labor, for vehicle usage. So really, this is just an update. Now, what you may notice, though, is that the deposits in some cases have gone down and in some cases have gone up. And I can explain that in a few ways. There are some more precise estimates included, and so that is helpful to bring the deposit to a more accurate point. However, there are also our new indirect cost rates included. So if you remember, that came to the board in November, I believe it was. We changed that overhead rate. And so that made a little bit of a difference in some of these as well. But what we noticed, the biggest jump here is the long side paved. We have 4 different scenarios, whether it's on the short side of the the street and unpaved, or whether it's the short side and on a paved street, or whether it's long side on an unpaved street or long side on a paved street, 4 different scenarios, 4 different estimates. That long side paved was the one that went up the most, and that was because we found we weren't really capturing all of the paving costs, that cold mix that is utilized after they dig. And so we were able to tighten up that estimate a little bit more. Other comment on this particular topic is that these apply to 1-inch meters, which is typically what we sell or what customers request. Other size meter connection costs will be individually quoted. And so those are sometimes include inventory that we don't keep in stock. We have to get those prices at the time that the estimate is requested. But we start out with these estimates and then we reconcile them, and the customers get a bill or a refund, and in most cases a refund. We're just looking for other important points. That's really, so we have a resolution to bring this, we have a resolution to incorporate these new estimates into the rules and regs. However, it's only an update based on the estimated costs due to changes in the price of inventory, for example. So because we've incorporated those estimated amounts in the rules and regs, we've been having to bring a resolution each year, but I worked with Jeff to incorporate something into the resolution so the general manager has the ability to update the rules and regs with the new cost estimates each year, so we don't have to bring a resolution. We'll still bring the information as far as how the cost estimate's changing, but we won't have to approve a resolution each year just to incorporate that estimate into the rules and regs. So pretty straightforward, I hope. However, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Vice President Doolittle.
Thank you, Director Roman. Yes, I have a couple of questions here. And again, this gets to data. I'm now representing the ratepayer when I'm asking questions like this. This is not just to amuse myself because I like data, as we all know I do. That's where I'm coming from when I ask this question. So what is the average time a refund takes?
Okay, so on one of these, once the project is completed, once we see that work order come through with all of the information from the operations department, it's probably,
I'd say within a month.
yeah, within a month's time or so.
It goes
Yeah.
with our regular check run and
Yeah.
the scheduling with the check run. We usually do those about every 2 weeks. So depending on the timing, I'd say within a month.
So, and when you say work order, that's saying that the job is complete, the work order?
That lets us
It's called a
know.
work order? Oh,
Yeah.
so you mean the completed work order? Okay.
Yeah, that lets
Okay.
us know how much time it's taken, what inventory they've used, what vehicles they've used, so that we can compile all of those costs.
And again, I'm going to ask another question, and I don't think that that the district really realizes how much the board is asked about things. And I know that the request is that the board is to immediately send everybody back to the district to ask these questions, but ratepayers feel frustrated and they feel sometimes that they're hitting a wall. And so sometimes it's nice for us to be a little bit informed, not that we're going to give them an answer, but shake our head, say, I hear you. This is kind of what I understand about this, but you're still going to have to go back to the district and ask them, let me know if you have a problem. So for example, so what is the average hold of the ratepayers' money? So when they put their money down and then for the meter, how long is the district sitting on their money before work starts? What's the average time?
Okay, so that's a good question, and I don't have those statistics, but I know that it's happening faster than it was a few years ago when we had a lot of volume of this activity. I don't know, Sarah or David, if you have an idea of how, from the time the customer makes the deposit until the meter is installed.
You don't have
I'm
to
not
have an
sure.
answer right now, maybe
Yeah.
just hop back with the answer sometime in some other report. Just wrap it to another report. It didn't have to be some special thing. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you.
Well, wouldn't that be something too, where we're incentivized to do that as quickly as possible so we can start earning the water consumption rate and all that? I mean, it would not serve us to sit on these things.
Yeah, no,
There's other factors in play too. It's not always us that, sometimes we're waiting on the customer to finish a process or get us information. So sometimes there's that factor in play too.
right. And it depends. I think it really heavily depends on how many of these we have going at any particular time. They're really, in my opinion, above and beyond most regular work. And so they have to be incorporated, from that standpoint. And when we had hundreds of these in a year, a few years ago, it was definitely a longer turnover. It's shorter now.
Where
That's all
does
for me.
where does that money go once the customer gives it to us?
It goes into a project deposit account, and we actually restrict that project deposit money until we're able to reconcile and refund that.
So it's not like we're earning interest on it.
Well, technically it is part of it. It's part of the district's funds. There is not a separate requirement to apply interest to those deposits. We also don't pay interest on any of the regular deposits that the district holds. So it's no different from those. But we would be earning interest on it essentially.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So I do have something else then as follow-up. So when I worked at Dell Computer, that man's worth $260 billion. He knows what he's doing. One of the things I learned there was that you want to run your business with other people's money. It was called OPM, other people's money. And so I think, oh my God, that's never happened to me here. So I'm really curious that was a great question. I thought that Director Short asked about that interest. So while that's the thing that Dell did, is it held your money and you waited 2 weeks for the computer. That was back in the day when you had to order it, call them up and order it. I trained the sales reps, by the way. Anyway, that's something to look at in the future, I think, is that idea of, that amount of interest and everything. I guess it's a nominal amount, isn't it?
I think it is, and it's really incidental. It's
Okay.
not intentional. That, the district is.
No, I don't think that,
utilize.
yeah.
In the private sector, yes, that makes sense. In our type of agency, that really is not the intent, but I believe it is nominal, and it would be a bit cumbersome to apply interest to all of those deposits. But it's a good question. It's something to think about.
Well, there's a factor there too, in that the duration of time that we would be holding that deposit would be relatively short also. So if we're holding it in the local bank, the interest would be really, really low, and we're holding it for a really short period of time.
Exactly.
So it won't amount to much, I suppose. Do you have anything else, Mr. Short?
I mean, do we do that with the security deposits for new accounts?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah. I understand that's pretty typical, but I would have to look into that a little bit more in terms of, what the actual requirements are. That's actually been on the ongoing practice since I've been here. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it.
Director Charlesburg?
I just, one thing, you may have already said this, and I missed it.
Mix 'em
You
up.
say that the cost estimates are updated periodically. What period is that?
So what our intent is to do this annually. And so that's what we're doing today. We're trying to bring this back on an annual basis. Not
Why didn't you
say
say
that.
annually then?
because it could be more frequently
Oh.
if perhaps some of the inputs change drastically. We might bring it back more frequently.
Okay.
Other questions?
Are these deposits, the percentage of the full cost of the 4 different meter charges?
Are they a percentage?
Yeah.
They're the full estimate. So the customer would pay the for the short side unpaid, for example, they would pay the $2,521. And then once we have all of the information from the actual project that was done, you know, the goal is that this is 100%, that this is exactly what it's going to cost. That is almost never going to happen. So ultimately, they're overpaying most of the time slightly, and then we're refunded. So that deposit may be more than what the actual job costs, but then we're refunding to them.
And this is just the installation of the meter, not the meter itself.
This is just the meter installation portion. Yes, this is not there are capacity charges in addition to that. So water capacity, wastewater capacity, and there are other fees that they pay, like the deposit on their account when they set it up, and account setup fees. And this is just the meter installation portion.
And comes the question, because I was asked this by a ratepayer, what comes first, the meter or a will serve letter? I would assume a will serve letter has to come first and then go forward with the meter.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
That's where I am. I thought.
Other questions?
I do have one other question. So is it, I see that we have this. So this is on the website, I imagine, this long side, short side, wide side, narrow side, all that sort of, yeah, that's,
right.
it'll be updated. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is there anywhere where it's very clearly stated that there's, you have to pay the water capacity fee, you have to pay the wastewater fee, do you have to pay the deposit account, you have to account for setup fees, like all of that
Yeah.
in one place very clearly? Okay, good. It is?
I mean, Kathleen would say it's still confusing. She's come and talked to me about it a few times.
Who is this?
Kathleen.
Oh, okay.
But if you look at page 33 and 34, we do have a rate and fee schedule that we now publish that includes all of the various rates and fees and estimates. And so on that bottom section of page 34, they can see the fee for the estimate for the connection or installation, the water capacity charges, the wastewater capacity charges, and then the miscellaneous fees are on page 33, such as the guaranteed deposit and the new account setup fee, which is $43. So they receive all of this information in the quote after they apply for new service. They receive a quote from us and it lists all of these fees out for them.
Individually, so they don't have to plow through
No,
this.
no.
Okay, good.
We provide them a quote with all of these fees.
Thank you. That's all.
Citizens Advisory Council, David, the chair, David Carrillo, do you have any comment on this stuff?
President Vaughn, yes. When you put those meters in, I assume they're tested and do they already come with numbers on them?
They're tested, yes, and numbers as well.
No, as far as
Testing.
tested,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think they come with tags.
So there's a tag that shows the high, mid, and low piece, and then if they're a brand new meter, then they'll be starting at 0.
And the serial numbers map what's on that tag to what's on the internet.
Okay. And so if somebody were to put one on the property and not use it, then what I understand, you go and get that after a year preserved. Is that true? Is that true to preserve the meter? Or if it's like non-use for that whole time after they put it in?
Once they purchase it, it's theirs unless they close their account.
Oh, okay.
And they could request, we've seen that in the past. They can request to be locked, seen that. If they're 0 use for a while, they'll be parked in our system and we will go out and physically check to see what's going on. If they consistently are 0, then we note that in their account, so that we monitor that.
I think there was a time perhaps that it was being done in the past.
Yeah, that's what I was understanding. So
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
Is there a motion from the board to approve the updated meter connection fee cost estimates and the corresponding revisions to the rules and regulations outlined in resolution 25-1080 and approve resolution 25-1080? Thank you, David. Second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you. General Manager Johnson, roll call, please.
President,
Aye.
Vice President.
Yes.
Yes.
Director Jarlsberg.
Yes.
Director.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Motion carried. Item C, rate scenario analysis. This is for informational purposes only. No action will be taken. Director of Finance, Ann Woman, please.
Thank you again. All right, so this is always an interesting topic. And before we start into this, I wanted to just talk about why we are bringing the rates to the board for informational purposes. So in 2023, the board approved the lower scenario C rates that are on the upcoming slides after a Proposition 218 process. So we are just anticipating that we're going to continue following that same path of that rate study. For transparency, the district is publishing these rates again as advance notice to the ratepayers, and we could alternatively have provided that notice via a billing insert or a letter, for example. However, it seemed to make sense to bring it to the board in a packet. In 2023, there was concern over whether the lower rates in scenario C would be sufficient, as they did not fully fund the capital improvement plan. And the board requested annual updates because of that. So the board approved or adopted the rate study implementing scenario C, but requested that we bring back the annual updates.
Adopting A, implementing C.
Adopting A and implementing C. Thank you. So because we adopted a lower rate than what was initially recommended, I'm saying this rate deficiency, if you will, has been somewhat offset by unforeseen circumstances, deferred projects and staffing vacancies, which has resulted in overall savings per se. And because of that, we have seen the net position increase more than expected, for example. My take on this is that while what has occurred is not sustainable in terms of deferred projects and staffing vacancies, it is a great opportunity for us, a fortunate opportunity for us to gather otherwise unavailable reserves towards the immense forthcoming Chromium 6 project. And with that, I'll move on to the actual specifics here. So in the staff report, starting on page 28, I've talked about some of the various factors for this year. This year, January 2025 increases were deferred until July 2025. Thank you for finding that typo as well. Resulting in a revenue loss of approximately $290,000 in projected increases. Operating revenue growth increased 8.02% or $724,593 for 24-25, fiscal year 24-25. And that generated it was a factor in generating $2.783 million in reserve set-asides for CIP work, that's capital improvement work, future equipment replacement and such. And that's been the case for the last few years. So this reserve set-aside amount was intentional. It was included in the rate study to generate those revenues. But unfortunately, because of circumstances, that went largely unused because of the deferred projects and vacancies. Factors in the operating revenue growth included scheduled increases, a small customer base growth, about 25 customers, 44,455 or 9.63% increase in consumption. And I have a correction to make here because in the audit meeting, we talked about a different figure. It was, we discussed 1,306 units as the number of increased consumption. However, that was an error going back and forth between acre feet and units and communications with the auditor. Anyway, it should be 44,455 units increase. And I'll show you that on a graph in just a moment. So we did talk about that in the 6:30 financial presentation in September. We looked at the graph and we saw that figure. However, it was incorrectly reported in the discussion. The audit itself is correct because it does not include the consumption units. Unrestricted cash balances. So cash balances, we see those are increasing, and the unrestricted / designated cash balances have increased by 11.15 million since 2019-20, averaging about 2.2 million per year. Again, due to deferred capital spending, staff vacancies, the property taxes have been, very high, and we've had record high interest earnings as well. So those are all good things, but they're things that we can't count on. We don't know what our interest earnings will be in subsequent years. Property taxes will fluctuate over time. And of course, we intend not to defer capital spending forever. That hopefully we'll be back on track with those very soon. So net position as a result of all of this grew by 9% or 4.629 million. And, it did exceed expectations for, it's an unusual year again. So let me zoom in on this a little bit if I can. Let's see if it'll let me. I don't know. It doesn't like that zoom, does it? There we go. Okay. Can you see that all right? So this is the same graph that I presented with the 6:30 preliminary financials in September. And you can see here that just if you are interested in seeing it graphically, this is not in your packet, by the way, but you can see that from 24 to 25, the consumption jumped from 461,686 to 506,141. And so that's the 44,455 or something like that. So that was related to the consumption. Let me zoom back out. No, it doesn't want to let me do that. Okay, hold on. It's user error. All right, there we go. All right, so the next part of this, I'm looking at considering, my recommendation to proceed with scheduled rate increases under scenario C as adopted to avoid falling behind, of course, but also we have the Chromium 6 project ahead of us, which, I'm sure we're all a little bit fatigued about hearing. But costs related to this project are projected to be in the neighborhood of potentially 60 million. Chromium 6 financing may require an early rate increase to qualify for financing because lenders are going to look at, they're going to require that we have net revenues to cover that debt service. And also, it can commonly take up to 2 years. We're learning more and more the length of time that it takes to obtain grants and loans and get them funded. So we may be looking at 2 years to obtain funding, and we will need some working capital in the meantime. So we're fortunate, when I said earlier, we're fortunate that things have worked out in the way they have because we have been able to build up some reserves for this purpose. Bonded debt and net revenue pledges for financing may require that we perform a rate study early so that we can get sufficient rates in place. And by demonstrating a reliable pattern of rate adjustments, we may enhance lender confidence and may improve our ability to secure favorable financing in the future. This is something they're going to look at when we go to a credit agency. That we would be required to do if we're going to issue bonds, for example. They look at things like that. They look at patterns. Also, if Chromium 6 goes away tomorrow, we always have a loan payoff opportunity with our capital improvement replacement program, now known as pipeline loan, that we still have outstanding. We can always pay that off early in order to save interest. We know that capital improvement plan funding is short under the scenario C rates. And also just again mentioning that these fiscal years, last year and this year, were financially strong, but driven by factors that are unsustainable, like deferred capital work and unavoidable vacancies, rather than sustainable improvements. Designated reserve spending was delayed. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier too. The rate study projected 2.783 million out of the rate revenues to be set aside for CIP work and future equipment replacement. And reports and studies, and many of those expenditures have just been delayed at this point. This was an interesting note that we received from our customer service reps, that while the last year's temporary rate pause may have seemed beneficial, they actually reported that many ratepayers were confused somewhat by that pause and deviation from the planned schedule. And they also commented that because the pause compress the time between the adjustments to only 6 months, customers may have felt the increases more sharply, which could have undermined the intended relief. But it was good intentions. Finally, we are working on a 10-year projection with Ridgeline Municipal Strategies, and we're going to be using that towards the next rate study, but we'll be also using that towards financing applications. And so maintaining consistency with the adopted rate structure is essential to producing a reliable model. And it will feed the next rate study and serve as a reference for potential credit agencies and lenders. Stability and predictability in our data not only strengthen the accuracy of long-term planning, but also reinforce the district's financial credibility. So it's important for us to stick to our plan at this point, in my opinion, because it will benefit us when we go out to look at those financing options. I think that is it for this one. Let me just look here. So I will note that the fiscal impact of this particular topic, we are looking at revenues increasing by about $620,000 in the 25-26, starting in 26. With the rate starting in 26 for that next projected year, we were looking at about 620,000 in revenues. And of course, any future compounding effects, so something to keep in mind. And that is my report. I am happy to take any questions or comments.
Director Fick.
Several questions. It's earlier part of the report. You say 25, customers, is that an increase over the average or is that the increase for the whole year? Also, is it for 6 months that the pause was going, or is it just 25 customers for that whole year?
That was in the fiscal year. So about 25 customers, new meters that were installed. The existing customers are constantly turning over, some of them, not all of them, but those are actually new meters that we gained in our system this year. Yeah.
Another question on the chart you had down the little bottom with all the, 506,000 is a CCF. And I can understand the last CF is cubic feet, but what's the first C? Is that a centurion?
Yeah, it's,
That's 100, so it's 100.
100, yeah, it's 100 cubic feet
So
is
it's
what it
like
is.
almost-
What does it mean? I don't remember.
That's-
But it's 100 cubic feet, yeah.
Also, I see this as a caution because there are ramifications for us pausing for 6 months.
Yeah.
And we did that when we had a change in the federal level that we didn't know how crazy it was going to be, and we haven't gotten in a war with Venezuela yet. So, okay, we'll see what happens.
It's a centum,
Centum.
centum cubic feet.
It's Latin.
A cubic foot is 748 gallons, I can tell you that. Or, no, that would be
Unit.
Yeah.
a unit.
Isn't it?
So it's centum. So it is Roman.
Director Jarlsberg?
I don't really have any questions at this time. Maybe if other people speak, I might recall something, not at this time.
Okay. Director Short?
Do we have an estimated time when this new rate study is going to take place?
Well, I'm thinking at the very latest will be 2027. However, if we get into the financing sooner than that, it could be late 2026. I could see that happening. Otherwise, I think we would start in 2027 would be our normal schedule. It's going to be here before we know it.
Yeah, well, some of us might have to run for re-election next year. So I want
27.
to not be campaigning with the rate study again.
Right.
Yeah. I'll be thoughtful of.
Yeah.
It's really important. Time constraint.
So if we were fully staffed and able to pursue our projects as we expected, would we have had to increase our rates from scenario A to scenario A or B?
Well, we wouldn't have to. However, if we wanted to fully fund what the old CIP plan projected we needed, yes, but we made a compromise at that time. However, that old plan from 2015-16 is going to be updated this year. So we'll have, hopefully, by the time we do this next rate study, we'll have updated information from the CIP to feed that. Construction costs tend to escalate more rapidly than other costs. However, we did see in the last escalation that we received from on the CIP, they actually went down a little bit. And that's unusual. However, from what I could gather, I think it was because the prior escalation that I had on the CIP was actually during COVID when we were having supply chain shortages and just everything went crazy at that time. So it's come down a little bit since then, but we still would fall short with our scenario C rates. And I think when the CIP gets updated again, we'll see that we still don't have sufficient rates to fund the full CIP program. So, but it's a matter of, like we talked about in the reserve meeting, the reserve policy meeting, we need to look at what we can tolerate. And that's, one thing we factor into all of those calculations when we do a rate study.
That's it for me.
Director Doolittle?
Okay, so I have quite a few questions.
Vice President Doolittle?
Oh, okay, I answered either. So how many customers came to us and said that they had some confusion about this.
I don't have statistics. I mean, they didn't gather, they collected that data, but that was the overall feeling that they had from a lot of the contacts.
But you can see why I'd be interested in that.
Yeah,
Why that, because, we can say this, and then it's like, when you get down and look at the numbers, wait, okay, it was only, 20 people. What is a large amount of working capital? You said we might need what's considered a large amount of working capital?
Well, it's a good question, and because we don't really have any hard, fast costs yet for the project, I mean, we have an estimate of 60 million. We are thinking at least potentially that we're going to have to fund the design ourselves and potentially go for a grant that would reimburse us for that after the fact. So we would need to front at least that design phase. And as far as I know, we don't have any estimates on what that design cost is yet.
Not at this point.
Yeah. So, but we did propose, remember in the reserve policy update, we did propose, and the board approved that we would transfer, I believe it was 4 million from the cash flow reserve to the new chromium reserve that would be created. So we would have at least that much in that reserve for that once.
Yeah, so I mean, I think if we looked at what the county's doing with the septic to sewer project and the fact that they're signing contracts on the actuals beginning the planning for that, and they're doing that with $6 million.
Yeah.
For what maybe was $130 million project, although I'm still curious about where that number originally came from our last meeting. I can't imagine that the design work for this, I mean, at least for the, would be extraordinary. I realize it's a whole different thing, but I can't imagine it'd be more than 20 million. So, I know you said something about the grants or something like, it was something like, through this process, we're discovering that, it takes a year or two to get grants. But I know the district had to know that. We always knew that it was going to take a couple of years to get grants. Right? We've done this before.
Well, grants do take a long time.
Yeah.
Yes, that's known, but we don't have the information yet to be able to go after the grants. So we're looking at, if we applied for a grant tomorrow, we still are looking at potentially 2 years until we see money from that. So we're going to have to start whatever costs we incur until we start seeing those grants or loans funded. We're going to have to front that. And we don't really know an exact amount. I'm thinking that 4 million is going to give us a nice buffer for that particular situation. But, at this point, we just have limited information.
Okay, because, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I'm of two minds here. I hear all this that the district says, and, and then I'm over here thinking, from a ratepayer's point of view and filtering both of those. And, one concern is that, and I've said this before, the district is not going to be stuck with $60 million to pay for this. The state is going to have to give us money. It's an unfunded mandate. It's going to run us out of business. That's not going to happen. Now, does that mean that we have to go la, 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 throwing flowers behind us in our path and pretend that none of this is happening? No, that doesn't mean that. But at the same time, I get concerned if we raise rates, then we get grants, the rates never go back down. And then we also say, well, we can pay off a loan. And again, our impoverished community is paying off a loan that I say, let's, eat the $1 million and make somebody pay off that loan in 20 years time. But so this is always what happens with this, is that we always talk about this money. And then if we get it and we don't need it, we're going to pay off a loan, and we're burdening the people in the community so much. I don't think you are burdening them. I'm just saying, the way that things go and the way that we talk about it, it's a burden.
I think these are options that are available to us. There's no final decision that would come to the board.
No, I'm just sharing what I think, because like I said, I'm of two minds. And then I sit there and I think, okay, well, do we need to have a discussion that we should implement scenario A for 2020, for as soon as possible, instead of delaying it, because, the sooner maybe the pain, having it over faster or, something like that. I don't know. So again, I'm of two minds. One, I don't want this constant, hitting the ratepayers all the time. And then when we get too much money, paying off things that we could just go ahead and let somebody else pay off in the future? Or two, do we need to go ahead and bite the bullet right now and go to scenario A and start doing this? So I'd like for us, I don't know where that conversation would come. I would like to say that, a couple things. One is we say that we have to have this reliable pattern proven of rate increases. What is the reliable pattern? Don't we have enough already as a reliable pattern? Where do we know we have a reliable pattern of having proven that we've done rate increases?
Well, it's going to be up to each agency, I think, to make that determination, what satisfies them. But if they start to see hesitation, I think, if they start to see political reasons for not increasing or sticking to that schedule, those are concerns for a lot of the rating agencies from what I have read, what I understand. We do have a good history in recent years of rate increases. And, we can also add some commentary, assuming they will allow it. We can add some comments about why we may not have stuck to it at one point in time. But, always sticking with the plan is clean. And it's going to be more favored than having to explain why we didn't.
Right, but I imagine if we go ahead with scenario A, we're not going to have to explain that. They're going to be fine. Oh, you raised the rates higher. We're okay with that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I would think so, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think, the work that the financial work of the district is impeccable. And, I have complete faith that, any bond group coming in and looking at any of this or ratings group would, be impressed as our auditors are. So, it's nothing about that. I'm just thinking of just trying to understand this and just thinking of the ratepayers. So then on the last page, this fiscal impact on page 30, when you say skipping rate adjustments in January 20, so if we didn't do the rates, if we didn't do it, it would cost us $620,000, right?
Approximately, yes.
Okay,
That's based
right.
on what the rate study projects.
Well, and again, but we don't have a fiscal impact for you didn't suggest that we go with scenario A. You're suggesting that we stay with scenario C.
I am.
Why didn't you suggest scenario A?
I think that we are, we're getting closer to doing another rate study. So that's going to be coming up sooner rather than later. And I don't think it makes sense for us to shift now because we need to gather more information and, we'll look at that again with the next rate study. So 2026, 27, Sarah's got something that she's been.
Isn't there still some litigation going on about this Chrome 6 thing and all that anyway? So we're kind of in uncertain territory still a little bit.
Yeah.
Did you have another comment?
I thought it would be important to point out, when you do a rate study, every year that you get out from the rate study, the numbers start getting more off kilter because more time has passed, they get more skewed. If you look at the rate study, if we went into in 2026 scenario A, that would be a 10% increase, but then 2027 would be an 8% increase. But if we stay in C, it's 9% next year and 9% the next year. So essentially, it might just balance itself out within, a relatively small amount of money. And moving into a different scenario this far out from the rate study might be more effort than it's worth. It might be better to relook at everything more closely in detail using the informed CIP, which the goal is to get that done before the next rate study. It's going to be hard pressed to do that, but that's the goal, to inform that rate study along with more knowledge about Chrome 6. So,
and the 10-year projection.
And the 10-year projections of the district. Well, I think we'll have the most informed rate study we've ever had because we're going to have, at least if the CIP is not fully complete, a big portion of it will, and we can use that to inform. So I think waiting and staying in C is prudent.
Well, I appreciate that feedback from both of you. I lost my thought. I've got numbers skewed and but aren't we, we're not talking about 9% increases. Like if we do a rate study next year, we're not talking about a 9% increase. We're talking about doubling what people have to pay.
In the new rate study?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. That's what I've been hearing.
Well, I think because we have actually done a good job sticking to and increasing the rates as we've gone along, we're actually, in my mind, we're probably in better shape than what was originally thought. But it really comes down to that big number, which is the chromium 60 million. Is it going to be 60 million? What is the interest rate we're going to be able to get on financing?
Can we find a cheaper solution? There's a lot of
Yeah.
things to consider still.
Yeah.
There's so much.
Mhm.
Can we get an earmark? We need to be successful at that. So
I'm hopeful that because we have been really diligent about the rate increases so far, that we're going to be looking at not necessarily doubling. I'm seeing that number also down the hill with other districts saying, that rates may double. I'm really hopeful that we may be coming in less than that because we've been sticking to those rate increases. 20, 30% would be my,
A year annually.
well,
Hmm.
no, initially, and then it would be,
Well, we would
Yeah.
consider it again, but again, like I said, once the rates are arisen, you don't usually go back and say, yeah, we're gonna pull that back. Because the machinations start and then you're used to spending that much money and, oh, guess what? It only gonna cost us 50 or 40 million, 30 million. And then, I don't know, is there a mechanism where we can go back and say, hey, we're charging too much?
yes.
Has that ever happened in the history of the district? In
Um,
the time you've been here?
not since I've been here, no.
Okay.
There was rollbacks at one point.
There was rollbacks, but they were rollbacks, but not during my time.
Well,
like-
we haven't had Chrome 6 in our history either. Something
Yeah.
as gigantic as that.
The rollbacks resulted in deferred maintenance, which is what we're facing today at a higher cost.
Right.
Didn't Alex Handlers recommend Schedule A on
Yes.
rate increases?
We almost did it. We almost did it.
That's the guy that did the rate study, Bardo and Wells, is that who?
Yes.
Oh, and so what's your point in saying that?
The part about Alex Handlers
Yeah,
was that he's the guy that actually studied everything.
well, I know, and we considered that. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
we considered it, we almost did it. And remember, it was in the newspaper and,
but it wasn't a unilateral thing that we just kind of came up with a number out of our heads. It was that our rate study guy.
oh, no, I agree. Oh, yeah, for sure. No, and I don't think any of this is coming, just somebody just pulling it out of thin air. I recognize there's a tremendous amount of effort. I know that there's a tremendous amount of heart in the district for considering, our ratepayers and the fact that people are, live in a disadvantaged community. So I do see that. I know that there's a lot of effort. I don't think it's, just willy-nilly. I just, say what my thoughts are, and I appreciate you answering that question. Now I'm a little bit better have better understanding now. Thank you.
Jane,
Yeah, I have a little follow-up, kind of triggered by this discussion. Do we have
thank you.
information about neighboring water districts and what they're going through, like what we're going through? Their consideration of the chromium 6 expenses and the rate increases. I know High Desert, I think, just went through a rate increase, and will they need to talk about raising it again once the chromium 6 mandate, hits
They
everybody?
don't have a chromium 6 issue in High
Okay,
Desert.
that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, so it's not apples to apples. They have their own
Okay.
issues. 29 Palms has one well impacted, so they have a lot of options operationally that
Okay,
they'll need to consider.
that's what I haven't really heard is
Yeah,
what's
but
going on with other
We're
districts.
the only one up here, but we're not the only one in the region.
Right,
And I want to say, let me caveat that 29 also has the issue, but only at one well, and we have it at all 5. So it's a much different problem. If we did it at one well, this would be a much different discussion.
Yeah.
We'd be able to either decommission a well, you can, change your strategies in pumping, you can drill a new well. There's a lot of options
what's the
there.
difference between the districts that makes us more susceptible to this?
The woo-woo, I think, is the technical definition.
Yeah.
It's the geology of our aquifers, really. We just got the unlucky straw there. You know, we have the rock
Oh, okay.
structures in our aquifers.
I haven't really thought about this before, so,
Yeah,
okay, I appreciate that.
We're fortunate to have the water that other communities do not.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just make one positive comment. What I think it's positive. This rate study does have 750,000 annual operating costs, which we're now receiving an estimate of about $1 million a year. So the rate study has a large majority of that operating cost incorporated. It has 8 million in debt service incorporated. So we've covered some of that cost already, which is going to help take the edge off when we do the next rate study and when we have that additional information. I anticipate that because of where we are now, we're going to be able to ease into it a little bit more. So
I do have a question. When you're saying doubling the rates, is that the base standby thing of $47, or are you talking about the increase in the water cost per unit, or what is the description?
we're not saying double. Yeah, we're not saying double for us. We are not anticipating that at this point that, we're going to be looking at.
What's the double?
Which one?
It would be of an average bill overall.
So the average bill is 114 or so. So that means it'd be 200?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, let me think about that for a second.
Okay.
I just went through some modeling, and we would be looking at about a 20 to 40% increase. So it would not be doubling. It would be probably so right now, the current average monthly bill is 136. I think that's with the 2026 rates. And we would be looking at somewhere between 20 to 40% on top of that. So we would be looking at low of 160 total to 190 on the high side. So not doubling the whole thing. Yeah.
And that's going to cover the 60 million?
That is for a 60 million where we have on the low side, the 23% is assuming that we have 10 million in grants, that we receive 10 million in grants. On the high side, it assumes we don't receive any grants. And we already have some debt service in our current rate study, so that's helpful. And then again, it depends on the interest rate. On the high side, that is using a higher interest rate, 5%, which is probably higher than it needs to be. On the low side, 2.2%. So I think that, what I'm anticipating is that we're not going to see, because of where we are and what we've considered already, we're not going to see the same kind of impact that perhaps some of the other agencies will.
I have another question. On the 10-year projection, are they going by the past of this Rockbridge Water District? Did they go back 3 years or 5 years?
3 years, I believe it is, and we haven't started that part yet. We started the staffing model. We're almost done with the staffing model. But the actual, the rest of the costs, we haven't actually started that part yet, but I think it was 3 years he said we'll do. And do you recall, was it 3 years? I think so. Based on 3 years of history? Yeah.
History.
But
We've got good history in the last 3 years. So, being the historian part, back in 93, when Ray left this place, this board was, all over the place. So we're relatively secure and stable compared to past boards by far.
But we'll be able to factor in, as we go through that exercise, we'll be able to factor in changes to, so perhaps the last 3 years aren't always going to be representative of what is normal for us. So we'll be able to make adjustments as we go through that model.
Thank you.
Citizens Advisory Council Chair, David Carrillo, do you have a comment on that?
Thank you, President Thorne. Actually, was thinking about it and thinking about keeping in mind the death of a water district. We really have to keep up with the stuff.
At the book he's referring to.
Yeah, the book.
Mhm.
And also I like having the 4 million to show that we have skin in the game to actually get those grants going and stuff. That's fabulous. If we keep C and we get the funding for Chromium 6 and we pay off the 2.78 million CIP work, as Vice President Doolittle says, we can't go back. But what if we put something in there that would allow us to receive the rates if we got all the funding for the Chromium 6 that we needed and paid off that CIP bill? Can we
Yeah.
put something in there? And how long do you think that 2.7 million is going to take?
For the pipeline loan, if we just continue without prepaying it, is that what you? It was a 15-year loan and I think we're in the 7th year, so have another 5-8 years still to pay on it if we don't prepay it. The other question was, I'm sorry, what was the other question? I apologize.
Like receiving the rates if
Yes, right. So what I think is that we would approach the next rate study, again, looking at a few different scenarios because we're going to have to consider some possibilities that we may not know the answer to at the time that we do the rate study. Hopefully we'll have a lot of information and be able to really hone in on those numbers. But yeah, I think that's always a possibility too, that, you know, the board could approve whatever scenario is selected and then potentially consider adopting an alternate lower scenario at some point.
that would be good,
Yeah.
considering almost a quarter of our population is struggling.
Yeah.
And and plus we're gonna have a 9% raise in January also. So that's
Right.
all things to think about.
Yeah.
But thank you for listening.
Yeah, a lot of considerations, a lot of variables still that are unknown. And so it makes it, without a crystal ball, makes it very difficult to pinpoint exactly where we need to go. But I think this is a good path that we're on. And, you know, we just need to keep pulling in that new data and keep reevaluating as we move along. That's, I think, the best course of action at this point.
Thank you. Public comment. Do we have a public comment on this rate scenario analysis deal?
For me, no, I'm just learning about it, so.
Well, we're glad to have you. David gets a little lonesome back there. I just wanted to remind folks that this talk about Chromium 6 and the expenses and bonds and all that, and raising rates, it's all imposed on us by the state. If the state would simply comply with the federal standard for Chromium 6, none of this would be happening. But they've got their own idea about what the Chromium 6 standard would be, without any funding so far to meet it. I'm just concerned about us becoming the bad guys in this thing when if none of this is our idea. And we just have to do what we can to either resist or mitigate once it happens, and be as clever as we can about how we spend the money and where we get it and all that kind of stuff. On a quibble matter, on page 29, I was looking at this number 4, which is loan payoff opportunity. If grants are secured and Chromium 6 costs are lower than expected, early repayment of the pipeline loan could save on interest costs. if I read that a certain way, that it infers that if we get a grant for chromium-6, that we could use that money to do something else. And that is not actually the case.
No, in context of, the whole chromium-6 situation and really, no, you're right. That is not what is intended there.
Okay, so we're going to point that out.
Yeah.
Good catch.
Okay, that was information only kind of a thing, so we'll move on unless there's anything further. Item D, notice of previously approved rate guarantee, deposit escalations, and pre-approved capacity charge escalations. This is for information purposes only. We'll need some explanation on this, and I'm sure no action will be taken. Director of Finance, Ann Roman, once again.
All right, so I think I was supposed to combine these two together, the last one and this one, and somehow I missed that, but it would have been a long topic. At any rate, so this is really just notice to the public of the annual escalation of rates under scenario C that the board adopted in 2023 after a Prop 218 process. And there are other things that are tied to the rates, such as the guarantee deposit. The guarantee deposit escalates automatically with the rates. It's based on an average 3-month bill, which basically the account has to be allowed 3 months until it can legally be cut off from the potential first day of usage. And so we will bring this topic back on the guarantee deposit in August of 2026 when we bring the bad debt topic, since these two relate to each other very closely. But the guarantee deposit would increase to 408 just based on that automatic escalation that's noted in the rules and regs. The meter exchange cost, this is an estimate also. An initial cost estimate of $353, and from that we'll reconcile and refund or bill as needed. The temporary service guarantee deposit, those are our construction meters, aka construction meters. And for those, we take a deposit that for a 1-inch is $1,175, or for a 3-inch, $4,170. That is for to cover the cost of replacement or damage. If those meters are, because they're quite expensive, if those meters are lost, stolen, damaged while they're being utilized. But again, it's an estimate, and we reconcile all of that when the project is finished, when the construction meter account closes, and refund or bill any excess. And then the water capacity charges and the wastewater capacity charges, those are escalating per the CPI as per the article 14.19 and 14.19.1 in the rules and regs. That escalation is built in that consumer price index escalation, and those amounts are actually all available on page 33 and 34. You will see what has changed or what is changing in the yellow. So the rates at the top of page 33, and then in the middle, the guarantee deposit, the meter exchange cost. At the top of page 34, the temporary construction meter deposit. And then at the very bottom of page 34, we have the cost estimates for, sorry, I don't have that up there. Put that up there. On page 34, we have the, on the left side, the tract connection cost estimates. So tract is like CMM, where the infrastructure has already been put in place. The non-tract in the middle column, those are listed there. And then the water capacity and wastewater capacity charges that accompany a new meter connection are listed there as well. And let me see here, what have I not covered? Yeah, I think that has really been That's most of it. So again, just there, noting that the projected increase in annual operating revenues would be 620,000 from that rate escalation, and the other items that are estimates, all of those are based on actual costs, so as the rates are as well, but they're estimates and will reconcile and refund or bill, so we break even on those. And that's really the end of my report. I'd be happy to take any questions, but this is very related to the last topic, so
Thank you.
thank you.
Director Jarlsberg,
Thank you for the time, but no questions.
Director Short,
No questions.
Director Fick,
It's
Vice President Doolittle.
Surprise, surprise, I have a question. So this just occurred to me, and since you said you were gonna put them together, I figured it's okay if I do a go back and ask this one. So in the 10-year work that Ridgeline is doing for us, the projections,
Yeah.
are they considering the incredible development that's going to be coming to Joshua Tree and the amount and huge amount increase in water revenues that the district's going to have with all of these big box stores and franchises that are going to happen?
Well,
not kidding.
I
It's
don't,
gonna
I don't
happen.
have all those statistics. I'd, love to have all of that information and share it with them. I know we did share some information with them about a few projects that we knew were on the radar. So those will be.
Okay.
And we haven't gotten to the operations portion of that, but that would be something we will make sure we bring it to him.
Operations, what do you mean operations?
Well, as we go through this 10-year projection, we're looking at everything individually, staffing, operations, all the different components of the district are being looked at individually.
So water revenue is in operations?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, because, you're not gonna have, no, just like the county hasn't given us a nicely wrapped package
Yeah.
of information about it, or at least not the board. You're not gonna have that regarding this development. So it's gonna have to be, just a scenario that you're gonna have to create for yourself. So you're gonna have to say, okay, we have one KFC, one Jack in the Box, one Applebee's, not a Ross, but something like that. All those things are gonna happen. It's gonna happen on the west end of town. So those things need to be considered in this, because I don't want to have to go back next year or 2 years from now and pay these people to do it again. So either we have to have, some sort of scenario presented to us and pay them now an extra $5,000 to do it, or we're going to have to go back in another point. So I think we need to have two of these things brought to us, and those unbelievable things right now that are going to come to pass, they have to be considered right now, even though we don't have the information. We can't just ignore it.
Was, we recently had a study done by NBS on costs and cost recovery for our activities and stuff. Was that a factor in either of these two last items?
Yes, it is. When we look at the projects, for example, the meter connections, the cost of the meter connections, those indirect cost rates or overhead rates are a factor in that. So we reconcile all of the hard costs, so the inventory, labor, equipment, et cetera, and then we apply that overhead or indirect cost rate factor. So those are factored into those calculations, yes.
So in other words, we didn't just pull numbers out of our head. We've got some empirical research and stuff that's put into this.
Yes. Yes, we have better figures than ever for that purpose.
Thank you. CAC Chair David Carrillo, do you have anything on this one? Public comment?
Nothing right now.
Thank you. Okay. Election of officers for 2026, presented by General Manager Sarah Johnson.
I'll leave this back to the board. It's that time of year to select your president and vice president for 2026.
I'm tempted to go one by one. David?
Can I make a motion?
Yeah, well, it'd be a motion. Proceed, please.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to have Vice President Doolittle be president of Joshua Water District.
For the board.
Okay, let's see, do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Does that mean we have discussion?
You can still have discussion.
Sure. Director Jarlsberg.
Yeah, I just wanted to state my opinion at this moment that I feel the current board structure is working and that this would be not appropriate time to change it, considering everything that we're considering at this moment.
Director Short.
I mean,
Do you want to do
I
it?
do I want to do it?
Yeah,
It wouldn't be up to me, it'd be up to the board.
your opinion would matter, I suppose.
I don't know, I kind of feel like we always kind of rush into this and there's never really any open discussion about it. So I'd be open to hearing everybody's opinions.
Do you have more to say on it, David?
Yes, I do.
Proceed.
We've had a busy 48 hours. And although Joshua Basin Water District is very informed and has a network, MBCA also has a network. And MBCA is the one that told us about what was happening yesterday. Our board wasn't knowing about that. And I feel that MBCA, our benefit of being on the MBCA network informs us greatly more than what just this water district has. And it's been just proven in the last, I don't know, probably last 5 days or so, including this Compass Yacht Club thing going on. And it's been 4 years or so as you've always been president and she's been vice president for all the time I've been here. And I think we need change because times are changing right now. And we have a county that is actually contemptible of Joshua Basin Water District and Joshua Tree. And I don't know if you all been keeping track of what's been happening for the last 3 or 4 days, but Stacy has become a leader in Joshua Tree.
Director Doolittle.
I'm still vice president for the moment, but as I said, I answered to both. Yeah, that's okay, that's okay. Well, I mean, I think that, in the past, if we're having a discussion about this, in the past, I poo-pooed the idea. Because I was happy with the structure of the board and how things went, but I now think I do think now it's time for a change because of some, I don't think that the communications between the district and the board are functioning very effectively, and I think there's some things that can be put into place to ensure that. And as those were things taken out by the current president, I think I would be a good person to come on as president and make sure that we are doing our very best to have transparency and in what's going on with the district, what's being told to the public, what's being shared with the board.
CAC Chair David Correa, do you have a comment on this?
I agree with Jane that there's a lot of things going through right now and I would like to see us stay the same. For
Also, could I follow up a little?
Sure.
Regarding what, Director, David and, Vice President Doodle, are saying, I don't know how what you're stating would be any different if the board stayed the way it is. I mean, you're still advocates, you're still involved with MBCA, you're still outspoken and have your ears to the ground. I just don't see how that would change with the change of our structure.
Well, I can answer that. So
Yeah.
it was as I just said, that I've made requests for better structure and communications between the district and the board. And those things, such as committees, functional committees and ad hocs, have not come about. And I've requested those numerous times, and personally and at the board level. And so now I believe that there's time for a change so that those things can come about so that we can actually be better prepared and have more possibility for communicating to each other in a transparent way to be prepared for these things that are coming our way. What recently happened, we were totally blindsided by it, except for the research that I did on it. And perhaps if we'd had some better setup in our board communications and our meetings with the general manager, we would have been more informed about what was coming our way. We're having this conversation, but I would prefer that this not be a referendum against our very capable president, but be something that we're considering. Just change is good, and it might be a positive for me to actually do it and not be a negative against the current president.
One of the things that I'm going to have an issue with, I think, is the fact that we have our own mission statement. It's right there. We have a vision and all that. It's about, my memory requires that I read it, to provide, protect, and maintain Joshua Basin, Joshua Trees Water, our vital community resource. I know there's, over this growth issue, it's going to go on forever. But there is a separation between us and anybody else. We have our own clear mission about what we're supposed to do. And there may be an occasional blending thing. I was hearing about it on the radio this morning. But our number one priority is delivering water to people, or businesses for that matter. And I'd like somebody to show me anywhere where it's written where we have the ability to refuse water other than if we have it or not. As far as the communication and all that stuff goes, one of the things that I pride myself on is that we have open, public, tolerant meetings. They're not rigid, they're not structured. Everybody has a chance to say what is on their minds. And with regard to the public, I am over at that farmer's market every Saturday morning, showing up promptly at 6:15 in the morning. And I'm there until 1:30. And I always invite people to come and yell at me, to talk to me, anything they want. And the part about ad hocs and other committees and stuff like that, whatever becomes critical or important, we simply put it on the agenda and talk about it at a meeting. We don't have to have a separate meeting, which rarely are publicly attended. So I think I've done given what I've got to work with, I've done a pretty good job of running these meetings. They're fair, open, and I hope if everybody participates, makes them entertaining too. So I would agree with Jane that we keep this current structure that we have, because the vice president of the board, she has ample opportunities to speak here. She speaks more than any of us, as a matter of fact. And so her message gets out there. And David too, as he's about to demonstrate.
Okay, well, I was going to say Ann has majority, but my concern also with, even though you're usually one-on-one with people, that's fine. But the problem is we're now having to deal with the network, but also the WRO and the finance committee were dropped without any information to the board. And that was a concern. But also things are changing and I think we need to have a change. I mean, we're being incurred by the county right now, this effort with the sewer authority.
So you can either vote or there can be an alternative motion, which would go first. That's up to you. Just wanted you to know your options.
Could you say that
You
again?
have a first and a second on the floor. So you can either, there could be an alternate motion. Or you can take a vote, but if there's an alternate motion, that goes first.
Okay, so,
So who decides if we take a vote?
Well, it's
The president.
sounds like my job.
Okay, I didn't know.
So option one is Vice President Doolittle to be president. And we're handling that separately from Vice President?
I think that would be less complicated
Okay,
Option one is a vote, is
for president.
right. And then option two is an alternative
If there's an alternative
motion, right?
would be
Yes.
to leave.
would need a second.
which we need a second.
Okay, so right now we're gonna vote only with Stacy for president.
Unless there's an alternate motion, that would go first.
So we want to make that alternate motion.
No, I'm not suggesting that, I'm just saying that's your
But-
option. If there's discussion for an alternate motion, I think you started that a moment ago. Then the alternate motion would go first before the vote. Jeff, do you want to help?
Yeah, so you have a motion and second before the board. So you've had discussion. Unless there's any further discussion, your next step is to take a vote on that motion. The only thing that would come before such a vote is if there was a modification to the motion or a supplement motion. And I'm not saying that there is or there's not one that I'm aware of, but you have a motion before the board, so your next step would be to vote. My understanding is that the motion before the board is for Stacy Doolittle as president of the board. I
We
believe.
have to vote on that, right?
Sounds like it.
Let's see, Director Fick,
Yes.
Director Doolittle,
Yes.
Director Jarlsberg,
No,
Director Short,
Yes.
and let's see, Coleman, no. Motion carried. Okay, item number two would be the vice president position. Do I hear a nomination for vice president?
I nominate Director Flowen for vice president.
Very well. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? Anybody want to say anything? Okay, so roll call. Vice President Doolittle,
Yes.
Director Fick,
Yes.
Director Jarlsberg,
Yes,
Director Short,
Yes.
and me, yes. Motion carried. There it is then.
take effect immediately.
Takes effect immediately.
We just don't have the plaques because we didn't know. So we'll get those next time.
Safety.
What's that?
We don't have the plaques yet, so we'll get that fixed for next time.
All right, next up is the general manager's report. Sarah Johnson, please give us your report. Wait 1 second, that page is wrong. I think first we're getting our director reports.
I
And
was distracted.
that's okay. And so, Vice President Doolittle, I'll just go ahead and go first, or President Doolittle now. I'm listed as first. So I provided for you a written report for my attendance of the Joint Powers of Authority, JPIA, and the Association of California Water Agencies Conference. I attended in December 2025, and when I originally wrote out my notes, they were 12, 16 pages long, and so I kept whittling it down, and I wanted to present it so you all would have something to read, and I'm expecting everyone to read it and ask me questions throughout the following month about it, because I spent a lot of time on it. But I think that a lot of times we go to these conferences and we learn and we come back and we do an oral report to the board. And so much of the knowledge sharing is not captured. And so that's why I spent, quite a bit of effort to put it in this format. And as you can see, there's some updates to JPIA and the work there. I did recommend, there's a leadership development program. It's a 1 to 2 year course for senior leadership, and it opens in spring, summer 2026. And as you can see, there's a hyperlink to that, Leadership Essentials for the Water Industry. I would suggest that the district consider availing themselves of this opportunity. One of the most buzzy presentations, and the one I enjoyed the most at the JPIA, was the parametric earthquake insurance. And I did have a brief exchange with Director Roman, and so this is something that JPIA will be offering the district in April 2026, and the coverage is triggered by seismic data, not property damage, and it offers rapid payouts, broad coverage, and flexibility, and the premiums will be nominal. And it also pays out very quickly, and the moderator noticed that this coverage is more important now as members, and everyone can no longer rely upon FEMA emergency funds as a backstop. Then I already shared this at our last board meeting on page 36 of the agenda packet, page 2 of my report, that there's been an increase in trip and fall claims at water meters due to automated meter reading, AMI, and that JPIA recommends a mitigation of instituting a meter inspection process and document condition and to report any repairs, keeping good documentation of that. I again came back with a lot of opportunities for cybersecurity and resilience support by JPIA and Aqua. And I believe that this is very important to not put the district's eggs into one basket and just rely on the IT people that we pay for, but avail ourselves of what JPIA offers and also what the federal government offers. So I subsequently had a correspondence with Hunter Sargent, and he would be offering free cybersecurity assessments, training, tests of phishing campaigns, and device reviews. And of course, there's also additional resources. And if this is a huge issue, particularly for the water industry and the FBI's Internet Crime Report. If you look into that, you can see on page 12 where you can see data breaches and ransomware with attacks on water infrastructures. Page 37 of the agenda packet. Their energy and sustainability issues. And so this was a very good presentation. There was a prize-winning project that was a $20 million state-funded pilot project in the Turlock Irrigation District that tested solar panels over canals. And they did this without draining the canal, which is a feat that was thought to be impossible. And it's aimed to generate electricity while also reducing water loss through evaporation and curbing algae growth. The project won the top innovation prize at the conference. And so I have a recommendation for JBWD to investigate solar microgrids and battery storage solutions as future strategies. Again, this doesn't mean that we're going to start doing this in 2026. You can see my notes there regarding water planning and community engagement. The Water Justice Program of the Department of Water Resources is about rural drought resilience and climate driven extremes. And one group which is addressing rural issues is Drought Resilience Interagency and Partnership, or the acronym DRIP. And I may be invited to participate on a committee to make sure that the desert interests are represented, because they are, let me tell you, they're never discussed at Aqua or JPIA. It's like the desert doesn't exist. And it's a real problem for small water districts not being recognized. So the leadership and workforce development, that was a very interesting presentation, and my recommendation out of that is an anonymous cultural assessment to bring to light any issues. Willie Whitsley, the GM of Yuba Water, shared his journey and said that it was a difficult process to go through. It was hard to hear some of it, but they implemented some remediations, and one was their posting their succession and development plan. And my recommendation is that we consider that. Technology and data sharing, I kind of mentioned this. I can't remember what all I said. I was super excited about this. What's the California Public Utilities Commission approves data sharing with any water customer for every customer, low income or not. And so that means SCE would share its data with the water district. Now, SCE has had to validate income of these people. So then this barrier to entry to use services such as LIWAP, because people couldn't come up with their proof of their income levels, would now be verified through this SCE data. And again, this comes back to AI, where things are, the nomenclature, things are named the same thing, so that we could take those inputs into our customer service database. And someone who, the East Metropolitan Water District, they use Kayenta customer service software, and they have managed to do this. And after implementation of this data sharing, 80% of eligible customers have enrolled versus 10% without this data sharing. So anyway, you can read some more about that. I recommend that JBWD identify and classify data, these data sets from SCADA, GIS, customer service. Even when Ray was here last time, our temporary, acting interim operations director, he was talking about, like, there's, years and years of some leak data and some other things like that, pipe data, and that can actually be pulled in as well. And this will all go together. It's all one big AI data watershed, but it starts with being able to have the nomenclature. And again, recognizing that this is not something that we're going to be doing immediately. So generative AI and agentic AI, those were discussed as transformative tools for the water utilities, and examples include knowledge retention chatbots and digital twins for infrastructure. So one thing I wanted to share with you right here earlier, when we were talking about the rate and fee schedule being online, that I imagine by next year, the technology will be ready, if it's not ready right now, for that to all be turned into a bot. And then people would just type in what their circumstances are, and then it would spit back out for them, oh, you need this size meter with, you're going to need this, this, and this. And so then it would give them that menu that is now having to be done a little bit more manually. And again, I've recommended this before, but I believe that JBWD needs to create an AI policy and adopt AI for operational efficiency when and where feasible. And I do think that that's something that doesn't need to be delayed. It's something to be looked at in 2026. And there was so much discussion about AI that I was distressed afterwards, because I think it's going to have such an impact to humans and Americans. And when I asked questions of the experts there about what is a district supposed to do with AI and its transformative changes, and all of a sudden somebody who had 100% of a workload now is going to have 25%. What are we supposed to, tell that employee, or what's going to happen to that employee? They said, and this was easy for them to say, oh, you just upskill them, and then they can sit around and innovate and all this sort of stuff. And of course, there's always plenty of work to do here, and I do think that there will be some of this, but I think it's something you have to get out ahead of, and my recommendations are for policy creation, workforce training, and beta testing across JBWD, and consider AI impacts when developing staffing plans. So especially when you particularly with this Ridgecrest work, and you're doing 10 years of staffing analysis and projections, I'm sure they're very wise about this. You'll have to be thinking about the AI part of it. So that's all for my director report, but you know what? I missed something. I wanted to say a couple of things is now that I'm installed as president. And I forgot, I just raced by this, but I wanted to thank you colleagues for your confidence. And I wanted to say that our outgoing president is a hard act to follow. In old Western terms, Tom's the one who never lost his hat, his horse, or his temper. And I've learned a tremendous amount from him. I'm talking about him like he's dead. And I'm sincerely grateful for the example he set.
Not yet.
I know. So we'll continue the good work that's been done and we'll take every opportunity to strengthen transparency and the public's trust. I'm committed to clear communication and ensuring every director has the information needed to serve the public well. I'm proud of this board and the commitment, passion, and intelligence you bring to every meeting. I'd like to briefly outline the tone and expectations I intend to set as president. This is not for action. It's simply a statement of how I will preside moving forward. So let's work together to have meetings with a clear structure consistent with our administrative code and Robert's rules, which I've been reviewing, and with respect for time. I definitely think that's one place where we can make some improvements. We'll stay on topic, minimize discursive comments. I will be stepping in to say something about discursive comments when I see them occurring. And we're going to try to require speakers to be recognized to eliminate crosstalk. I 100% agree that Director Flowen has done an outstanding job of making sure that everybody has gotten heard up here on the board. But I do think that our meetings would be easier to follow, especially online and in recordings if people were recognized. I recognize this reflects a change, and I believe we may need to discuss how we want to proceed at a future meeting. And I think this is important, and believe it or not, I'm going to quote the great father of conservatism, Edmund Burke, who once observed, and I'm paraphrasing here, manners shape whether we elevate or debase our institutions. Respectful conduct strengthens governance. I will ensure every director has the information needed before major decisions, and I'll hold regular briefings with our general manager, myself, focused on agenda planning, information sharing, and clarifying operations, building transparency and trust. General Manager Johnson, let's take a few moments at the conclusion of this meeting to arrange our upcoming one-on-ones, okay? Right. So turning to some nuts and bolts, this meeting traditionally includes committee appointments, but those committees have been dissolved. I've researched and discussed this with other districts. I had a long conversation with somebody from High Desert Water District about what they do, Bighorn and the like, and they have board committees. Given the scope of issues before us, Chromium 6, the proposed septic to sewer project, legislative lobbying efforts, grants, rate studies, and engineering operations, I believe the board should consider re-implementing committees with clear guidelines. The feedback was that they didn't function very well and they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. And I did hear that feedback and I didn't necessarily agree, but I think we need to take a look at those again and see if we can reinstitute them and have them function as they need to be, which is coming back to the board with recommendations and not spending, I'm not saying we need a finance one, but for example, not spending time to board members going everything in a finance meeting and then coming to the board and having the same questions asked again of our director of finance. So I think we need to look at that. And so I'll request that as a future agenda item. As president, I'm forming an ad hoc committee to prepare the general manager's performance review. Members will be Vice President Short and myself. The committee will prepare questionnaires and collate qualitative and quantitative feedback from board members, staff, and the GM. We've done this in the past. And actually at the general manager's request, who wanted that quantitative feedback. I do have a question for our council. Regarding this staff survey, do the questions need full board approval in advance, or may the ad hoc committee just refine them for the general manager to distribute?
I am not sure what you were referring to. What do you mean staff survey?
Staff survey, culture, general management performance feedback. We've done that, and we did that in the past a couple of years ago. And so I'm just asking, is that something that the ad hoc, comes up with the questions and then the general manager implements them, or what?
I don't know historically how you've done it. It might be a thing that we can talk about.
All right.
as that process is
Okay.
viewed. But I don't know historically how you've done that.
Okay. And all of this is to ensure the board receives the data it needs, and also that the general manager gets the feedback she needs as well. And this committee will have this ad hoc will have a goal to present its report on or before February 18th, 2026, if that seems to work with her, and will dissolve upon completion. I'm also forming a transparency ad hoc committee to recommend policies and improvements that promote openness, accountability, and public communication, with the GM serving as a key liaison. Members will be Vice President Short and myself. This effort underscores our commitment to eliminating barriers to information sharing and any appearance of stonewalling. Director Flowen will continue as our representative if he agrees to the Morongo Basin Pipeline Committee.
Commission has been dissolved.
Oh, I already forgot that. Oh, well, no more meetings for you as far as that goes. Okay. And then following past practice, from other presidents, I will serve as the district's representative to the MWA Technical Advisory Committee. And believe it or not, I haven't even attended one meeting this year. So they've been canceled on the times that I was supposed to go. So, okay, that's all from me in my president's remarks. And so now let's go forward for the rest of the director reports. Director Jarlsberg.
I didn't attend anything to report on myself, but I would like to respond a little bit to your report. Does it also mean that Vice President Flowen will be representing us in the booth at the farmers market and possibly at Copper Mountain Mesa?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's actually, I hadn't thought about the Mesa, but as far as I'm concerned, those can continue. I mean, I think he's an institution, a fixture at the farmers market. And who wants to sit next to an institution? Who wants to live in an institution? If he wants to continue doing that, I'm certainly 100% for that. And also for the Copper Mountain Mesa as well. If he wants to continue doing both those things. Thanks for asking. Do you want to continue doing both those things?
Well, those two things in particular were entirely on my own initiative, and there is no stipend or payment of any kind involved in those things. So, and up at the Mesa, I simply speak during their public comment period. And anybody can go by that booth. What I say now is that there's two of us there semi-permanently, because I can voluntary. There's two of us there. We have 6 chairs. And David was there last week for a fair amount of time. So there was no structure to those kinds of things. But whether or not my attitude has been bent at all, the ratepayers always are first, not me. And I go there for their benefit, not for mine in any way, shape, or form. And so I will be continuing to do those kinds of things. Even if somebody else gets appointed to do it, I'd go anyways, because there's 6 chairs.
I remember you being there when you weren't a director.
Right, yeah, because it was fun. Not getting up at 4:20 in the morning is fun.
And so you'll also continue your work with Copper Mountain Mesa as well. You'll continue to go to those meetings as well.
I might suggest, given that it's kind of turning into a discussion, that you might want to bring this back as an agendized item just to go through the committee assignments.
Okay.
So at a future
All right, we
meeting,
can do
might
that.
be a safer
Or
way
not.
to do that.
Okay, we can do that.
Not much to talk about.
Then the other thing I wanted to mention is that President Doolittle attended the Joint Powers Authority meeting as an alternate because I couldn't attend. And I want to commend her for her amazing report. But my understanding was, as a representative to JPI, that we're really doing it for the staff, not necessarily a full-blown report to the board. I think this report needs to go to Director Sook because he normally attends those meetings. Apparently didn't this last time. And part of the reason I didn't do a big report when I attended in the past is that he was attending. And I figured that he learn these things on his own. So I just wanted to state that. And also, I'm not sure what the appointment will be for the JPIA meetings in the future.
Oh, you mean as far as our representative?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that all from you, Director Draws?
I think that's it. Thank you.
All right, so Vice President Flowen? Vice President Short?
We might want
What?
to clarify for the minutes.
What's that? Okay.
Vice President.
He's vice president.
Who do you want to be the vice president?
Uh,
If we voted on it, we already voted on it.
You're Vice President.
No, I'm not.
Oh, it really? Is he?
You-
Oh, did I really? Ah. Wow, I made a mistake. Well,
That brings
okay.
up a point.
Oh.
Yeah, you nominated
I meant to
him.
nominate Director Short,
Oh, well,
And
say la
but
vie.
we all voted, right? So, yeah.
who seconded that? I just. Did you second me?
I did.
She did. Well, we should resolve this.
Yeah.
That-
Stacy.
Could I,
Oh, I'm acting like a president, sorry. Attorney wanted to say something.
Sorry, that's not what I dealt with before, so,
I can
do we-
rescind that motion?
do we have how the motion was phrased?
Suspend the motion. That's
Little did the motion, Jarlsberg seconded the motion, and everyone voted and everyone voted yes.
So what I'm proposing is that just like I'd like to rescind that. I'd like to take back that motion and make a new motion.
Can that happen?
Can that happen?
Well, everyone voted in the majority, so I suspect there can be a motion for reconsideration from everyone. Only the majority can bring a motion for reconsideration. It does sound like we have potentially, it may need to be revisited if there was a lack of clarification in the motion. I don't recall the specific phrasing of the motion.
You
In terms of
also
name.
said ad hoc would be you and Vice President Sloan.
I meant Vice President Short.
Well, you said several times. in your
No,
I
she
said
actually
Short.
said
It's in
Vice
my
President.
notes. Yeah, I just,
We shared a list. She said-
yeah, I did say.
But we have to maybe go back to the agenda item as well, because we're out of that agenda item. So
So can,
Jeff, could you guide us, please?
Well, yes, there could be a motion. We can have a motion to reconsider that item. It sounds like perhaps in this case for purposes of clarification purposes. If the motion wasn't clear, I again don't have the language of the specific motion in front of me. We could also we can pause and review the tape. I don't know if we can do that with Zoom or not
No.
before a meeting is over. But I would say if there is a discrepancy in terms of intent, I'm assuming then the motion may have been by first name. If that was the case, and we need to reconsider that, then we go back to the item. It would be first to be a motion from the board to reconsider the vice president vote. If that passes, then we would go back and rediscuss that item.
all right, so I would like to make a motion that we can reconsider the vice president vote.
I'll second.
Right, so now let's have a vote on that, please. Do you do the
Are
poll?
you interested?
Discussion.
No, we can do a roll call.
Have discussion and we'll have a discussion on the VP in a minute.
Discussion For that too, yes.
Well, this is just the motion to reconsider it.
Yes, correct.
So do we want to have discussion on reconsidering the nomination that I made?
Can you have the vote?
Okay.
It's a brief discussion.
All right.
I've corrected
Director-
President. little dates and times in the last couple of months, several times. So I know occasionally she flips the information. Honestly. That's through MBCA, not with,
That's supposed to be my excuse.
that's my brief discussion on that part.
Anyone else have anything to say on this motion? All right, so
President Doolittle,
I,
Director Fick,
Yes.
Director Jarlsberg,
No.
Director Short,
Yes.
Director Vaughn.
No.
I now make a motion to nominate Director Short for vice president.
I'll second.
Can we put it to?
President Doolittle,
Yes.
Director Fick,
Yes.
Director Short,
Yes.
Director Jarlsberg,
Yes.
Director Sloan.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Thank you so much, everyone. All right, so now continuing, if you've made those, taken care of those minutes, we're ready to proceed. All right, I appreciate that. So now moving on with our director reports, Vice President Short.
Okay, that's gonna take some getting used to. Obviously, thank you to the board for, I didn't prepare a speech. For trusting me to do that. Anyways, I attended the County Board of Supervisors meeting on December 16th to get information about this sewer project. I do not like how the county has gone about this. I feel there was no transparency. And if one of us were to operate with that little transparency, we would be tarred and feathered. That being said, I would like to request that we add another discussion, or we have another discussion on this sewer project as soon as possible, maybe a special meeting. I think we need to clear the air on this, as last month we were told this was preliminary. The press covered this and ran a story on it, and we told people that we represent that this was preliminary, and it now appears that it is no longer such. And I kind of took that personal. I felt like, to me, it seemed like we were giving the public misinformation.
Not purposefully.
Not purposefully, no, I'm not pointing the finger at anybody on this one, but it does reflect poorly on us. So I want to give ourselves a chance to get out in front of it. Also, I attended the Aqua Conference earlier this month in San Diego. I went to the same conference in May last year, and I felt the atmosphere was different this time around. It felt more like we were there. They're just trying to get us to buy things. I thought they were filtering us more through the vendors a lot more than they have in the past. That being said, there was still plenty of great information. Like Tom likes to say, we're just folks up here. And attending conferences like this can help us learn about the industry and speak with our peers and see how they do things. It helps to give the board the knowledge we need to carry out our duties as members of the board. I decided to focus my time and attention during this conference on the future of water in California. I attended an education session on the procurement pathways for powering water and infrastructure. It was presented by Terra Verde Energy. They believe that the cost of solar has reduced, and now would be the time to invest if that is the path we choose. As of 2022, the cost of solar is 4 cents per kilowatt, and being on the grid averages 45 cents per kilowatt. There is a desal plant in Orange County that will be net neutral. I think if something this scale can reach net neutrality, I don't see any reason why we can't at least cut away at our power use. The keynote speaker on the first day was not something I really agreed with. It was the CEO of a company called Western Growers. So it was a trust firm or something like that. This was the second time at an Aqua conference where the speaker has gone on a tangent about the need to invest heavily in above ground storage of water, saying that this was the only way to protect our water future. Last time there was another speaker who spoke about the importance of investing in reservoirs. While I agree that they are important, they are not the best way to protect our water future. We have massive reservoirs such as Folsom, Meade, Powell that are critically low, and the infrastructure that we use to fill these is in desperate need of repair. That being said, the State Water Project and the Delta Conveyance are the most vital infrastructure to maintaining our water future. I attended a session on infrastructure finance. I remember going to this one last year and thinking there were plenty of opportunity for us to get financing for Chromium, IT, or other projects. However, this year was very disheartening. The amount of money in the state revolving fund is so little that it would not be worth our time to even apply. This year, there is 150 million in the pot, and the max for one agency is 15 million. That means at least 10 agencies will get this. Another possibility was the emerging contaminant grant. Unfortunately, they no longer consider chromium-6 an emerging contaminant. I say this because I think the public should know that we are looking for ways to get these projects paid for, but the money just isn't there. And if they want to get, I'm not going to say that. That's all for me.
Thank you very much. Director Fick, do you have a director's report?
This whole thing is a hard act to follow. Okay, several things. One, this mysterious woman in black is a longtime friend of mine for 20 years, and I welcome Patty. Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Okay, and also, on the pause of the rates, the board, initially, it was just an organic, the fact that we had too many things on that agenda in November, December, a year ago. And so it was delayed a month, and then we decided that due to the ruckus on the federal level and possibly tariffs up the kazoo, we just went ahead and delayed that. So, and we knew we had other income coming in, so that's why we did that. Explain that to the ratepayers, the bond payers, and all the grant people. That was our reaction to the economy having. On the Aqua conference, well, she covered a lot, and VP Short covered a lot. I went to a lot of these meetings down in San Diego, and one of my emphasis was I did talk to the helicopter people or helicopter wet people, the ones who do hydrohydrant or hydrant, and there's another one that does another thing. We can accommodate having a helicopter re-wetting zone in the south portion of our water district. There's one reservoir that I really think is applicable to this because they have a large yard. We try to extend the fence, and it's H1, the one on the South Olympic. I also was investigating the solar situation there because back when I was in the ad hoc solar committee, General Manager Kurt Sauer was going on about we needed 8 acres of solar to offset all the energy we use. And in talking to some of these solar people, there are offsets. You don't have to direct. There's offsets with SCE that they can give you credit for the solar generated and with your account. Oh, that'll happen later. Okay, so well, Aqua's, we did have a dinner. Jeff's legal firm offered dinner to me, VP Short, and President Doolittle. And at that dinner, Doolittle gave a great toast to Jeff, our lawyer. And
Everyone there.
Yes, and we appreciate Jeff and all the work he does for us. And in fact, I think we might need him for some of the sewer stuff going on.
Thank you very much.
Okay. That'll cover Aqua. This is a long meeting, by the way. Mojave Water Agency, I attended that meeting remotely. And in that one, the remarkable thing is our longtime dear friend, Marina West, was chosen to be president. And just for the notes, Marina West was the treasurer of MBCA about, I think, 6 years ago. She was treasurer for 3 years and an MBCA board member. MBCA is quite an influential group in the Morongo Basin. I'll leave it at that part. The county sewer authority situation. We don't know too much about it. They extended the district boundaries to include Alta Loma, which also includes the controversial Lovemore Ranch project. And so comes the question, how does that have an effect? Of course, this entire county sewer thing is going to be probably years down the line. I'd be curious as to how the voting district happens, how the district happens and how the voting happens. Because
Director Fick, I just suggest that we talk about this at the
Okay.
meeting that we have when we discuss this.
Okay. Right. Okay. So yeah, the last 24 hours has been pretty eventful because we were also, NBCA was lining up for the Compass Yacht Club, which is happening in an hour and a half. And I want to appreciate our general manager for accommodating the schedule that they did. why they did. And oh, by the way, they closed their website to password only.
I said, can we give you a report?
Yeah, no, almost.
Okay.
I'm very proud of the board for that for the last 5 years. Well, no, 3.5 years, the year before I got on. Thank you.
All right, that concludes director reports. General Manager Sarah Johnson, please give us your report.
Did I make one?
Oh. Unique. Director Flowen, do you have a director's report?
I'm sympathetic about little things, by the way. I make a few
I
myself.
should have made check marks like you do.
Yeah, that works.
Mhm.
Not that I'm coaching. Yeah, well, Pipeline Commission came up. So that was a 65-mile drive out there to do that. And much of the discussion was about how, well, the issue is what created the issue was when the bond was paid off. It's been a little while now since the bond for the pipeline was paid off, but it does specify in there that when the bond is paid off, the contract is null and void. It expired, kind of a thing, which included the Pipeline Commission, a description of the Pipeline Commission and what they do and how often they do it. So technically, there was no longer a Pipeline Commission. And when we had a meeting of the Pipeline Commission, it was not a meeting of the Pipeline Commission. And so what is essentially, it has evolved into what is an equivalent to the Citizens Advisory Council type of a thing, except maybe about who's going to be our representative there on the Pipeline Commission. That would be something that would, or the former Pipeline Commission. I forget what they're going to call the thing now. The general manager was there for the meeting also, I should say. So anyway, that was kind of the big deal. And then they talked briefly about filtering the water that comes down from the aqueduct, from the pipeline system. And you note that they filter it to some degree, primarily, according to what they showed, to get the green stuff out of the water, but they don't treat the water. That's our job. So those were the two things, CAC and evidence that they are maintaining our safe water system. That's always something that I always look for, is to see that even though there's no more bond payments being made to those folks, that they're doing their job maintaining the pipeline. And I'm satisfied that they're doing that. Did you talk about the Bighorn thing, Jane?
No,
Yeah, we went up there for the it's sort of a county meeting up there in Landers. We went up there and we hear from the sheriff and the fire department and anybody else that is relevant at the time. And one of the things that was talked about was we have our representative at Mojave Water Agency is, I'm getting tired now, is, you just mentioned her.
Marina West.
Yeah,
Mhm.
sorry, we got it at the same time, Marina West. And so she gave her report up there. And the thing, she gives two reports, one because she's on the board of Bighorn Desert View, and also because she does the Mojave Water Agency board also. But they're coming down now to, if they haven't done it already, I'm not sure if they might do that soon, approve a rate increases over there. They went through the, what is it, 218, Prop 218 processes for doing rate increases up there, including public meetings and stuff. And so Marina is finally coming down to what the recommendation is going to be for the board. Copper Mountain Mesa had their board meeting last Saturday, so I broke away from the farmers market to go up to Copper Mountain Mesa, and they allow me about 10 minutes to talk to them during the public comment period about anything that's relevant to them. And so we talked a little about their bond. Is it a bond up there or is it a loan? I'm not sure. It's a bond. There was an earlier request maybe a few months ago about knowing when the deadline for payoff is on that, if you call it a deadline. And I handed them a sheet of paper from the auditor or something like that, which had all that information about what the yearly payments will be. And just a personal note, I do these sketches. It's kind of like a sketch of of what I'm supposed to do at the board meeting, because the agenda is not, I'm not smart enough to just do it off of the agenda. And I do that on Sunday mornings. It takes anywhere from an hour and a half to 2.5 hours to do that on Sunday mornings. And so I'd like to thank the board for giving me back my Sunday morning so I can enjoy a few moments of peace up there. It's been an honor to do this, to be the president of the board.
5 years.
I tried to do it modestly and respect the opinions of all of the board members, because we all only have one vote. And I like to remember that when I was doing it. And indeed, there is stuff in our admin code, I think, saying that these are 1-year terms that we do, and I've been doing it for 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is. Fair enough. We've moved it around a little bit. So that's it for me. Are you Madam President or what? Madam President?
That's fine. That's fine. So I just want to circle back to the request from Vice President Short regarding a meeting on septic to sewer. I had also made this request to General Manager Johnson, but now reflecting on more recent developments and more recent understandings, I believe that we need to call a special meeting for this because of the amount of information. And I'm hoping that the district could invite someone from the county to come present to us what's going on, since we don't know what's going on. So let's see what we can do regarding that. And I think that's it. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
No.
Oh, wait, General Manager Johnson. Yes, please give us your report. I know, I'm gonna get it. Oh, my goodness, yeah.
First, I want to start with some follow-up information.
I asked our accounting tech to pull those statistics for you. And she pulled the last 12 new meter installs. And the average days when they paid to when it was installed is 23 days. And from when the work was done till the customers got their refunds was 20 days.
Well, that's outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We have 3 anticipated new hires for January, which leaves us only 3 vacancies left. Very important vacancies, but nevertheless, we're honing in on that. I also attended the Morongo Basin Pipeline Commission with Director Flynn last week, and it was a great meeting. That meeting's always been a good one. We learn a lot about the water agency pipeline, but as Director Flynn had said, that the commission was no longer needed and so therefore dissolved. It's now being turned into like a TAC style meeting, and it will be headed off by general managers and their designees. They're trying to figure out how to host it on the same day as the NWA TAC meeting so that if we're having to travel, it's not so arduous to get there. I'll bring a full report to the board on that in January with a little bit more background information. And then there is an agreement that needs to be signed by our board as well for that dissolution of that commission. Last Thursday, we had a wastewater treatment plant inspection at the hospital. It's the first one that I've ever been involved with, where the regional board came out and did a site inspection. To my knowledge, it went very well. I was out there with the inspector, learned a lot more about that particular facility. It's one of the best performing facilities of that size and that type that she knows about. And she thought it was being very, very well maintained and really commended the company that we outsourced that to. So I expect that in the next few months, we'll be participating in a meeting with the regional board for the new permitting process. And again, that belongs to the hospital. They're the owners, we're just the operators, but our participation is still required. So then they'll issue another permit for another duration of time. The E21 reservoir RFP has been posted. On Monday, we had a pre-bid meeting. We were kind of excited because it's the first time we've done this in a while. And we had several contractors here at that pre-bid meeting. So we expect to get some bids on that job. The closing of the RFP is January 15th.
Yep.
And then we will open bids. The bid is given to the lowest, most responsive bidder, and then will be brought to the board for a full award, hopefully the subsequent meeting. And if you recall, that ET1 tank is on the northeast part of our district. It's 272,000 gallon tank that will be offline for about 120 days. We'll have some backup tanks while the repair and the recoating is done. And lastly, I will be on vacation the last week of the year, and we want to wish everybody a happy holiday season.
Just wanted to clarify one thing. I did attend training. It was JPIA membership summit, so it was separate from Aqua JPIA. So it was in the same location, and I might have accidentally got a copy out of the wrong line. I had to check in and make sure which is good.
Oh, and one more thing, sorry. Congratulations to the new president and vice president. Look forward to a very good 2026.
Oh, wait a minute.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn this regular meeting?
So moved.
There's a second.
I'll second.
All right, this meeting is adjourned at 3:34 p.m. Okay, maybe I did that right. Okay.